And we're live. Can I get a signal check in the chat, please, Nostradamus? Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com, but you know that. Founder and CEO of RefugeMedical.com, but you know that. Who, of course, is bringing you the show today, and we'll talk more about that later, but you know that. If you're new here, 5x5 in the chat, thank you. If you're new here, you know what to do. Ring the little bell icon, hit the subscribe icon, yada, yada, yada. Do all that stuff. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Thumbs up, comment for the algo, share the show with somebody you love. And if you've been surreptitiously unsubscribed by the YouTube algorithmic robots, please check and resubscribe if you still want to be here. If you don't, you know where the door's at. Don't let it hit you in the ass. Bear Independent Brief, 1MAY23. May Day. It's May Day, apparently. Is that a federal holiday? What are federal holidays? I don't know. My holidays come from the Bible. Good morning, Mad Kel. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Over the weekend, the state of New York, saw over 3,000 firearms surrendered in exchange for gift cards at 9 buyback locations. People were given $500 gift cards for the first firearm surrendered and $150 for every handgun thereafter. Smaller gift cards were issued for certain types of rifles and shotguns, including antiques, 3D printed firearms, and non-working replicas. Non-working replicas. Oh, we're just gonna so I buy a $20 airsoft gun and you give me $150? Sounds good. Brooklyn District Attorney, which is nowhere near Syracuse, New York, but Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez said, quote, "Each and every one of these guns is a potential life saved and a non-fatal shooting avoided," end quote. Attorney General Letitia James issued a statement saying, quote, "Gun violence has caused so many unavoidable tragedies and robbed us of so many innocent New Yorkers. Every gun that we removed out of Syracuse homes and off the streets is a potentially tragedy averted and another step in protecting communities throughout New York State," end quote. This year, Syracuse police, which is squarely in upstate New York, by the way. I didn't grow up in Syracuse, but I have family there. I grew up in upstate New York. And let me tell you something. When I grew up, I literally had a 12 gauge and a deer rifle, 7mm Remington Magnum. Thank you very much. Winchester 70 heavy barrel. Yeah, that's right. The Leupold telescope on the top of it. Harris bipod, choke stock. Yeah. In the back of my pickup truck, which I took to school. And I'm not that old, y'all. And you know what? Nobody tried to kill each other with firearms at school. Didn't happen. Not even a little bit. Seems to be it's a systemic issue where we devalue human life and we have skewed morality and ethics. And then we have glorified these school shooters. And just throwing this out there, I don't know how many children nowadays are medicated on basically a pharmaceutical version of methamphetamine. And yet somehow we're amazed that people are doing dumb shit. I'm just throwing that out there. Good morning, Chris Watkins. Thanks for the $5. Let's see. This year, Syracuse police have seized and removed 76 firearms from their community. On Saturday, Syracuse collected a total of 751 firearms in the buyback, the most acquired from a firearms buyback ever in the history of the state. Interestingly, the reaction from the public seems largely contemptuous. Good job, upstate New York, pointing out that people will likely be using the money for newer, better guns. The amount surrendered barely makes a dent, and those turning in guns aren't even the criminals of concern. Ding, 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 ding. There's the issue. Law-abiding citizens are not the problem. Removing firearms from the population of law-abiding citizens is not the problem. Raise your children up in the way that they should go, and they will not depart from it when they are older. I read that in a book one time. It's a really good book. You should try it. Oh, Cafe Bustelo, a little heavy cream. It's Monday, y'all. By the way, look at the dew my wife gave me. She likes it. and she has to look at me all the time. So I guess that's a good thing, right? I'm super duper used to having a shaved head and a giant beard. So I guess this is relatively presentable. I don't know. Maybe it'll help me with my endeavors of peopling around the globe, with business and ministry and YouTube. Or maybe I'm just cute, according to my wife, which is good because when I'm cute, according to my wife, occasionally we get to observe the first command. So I guess we'll take it, right? Jessica Bennett. Oh, Andrew Stanek. What's up, Drew? Shalom, brother. Oh, man. Okay. Meanwhile, New York's northern neighbor, Canada, is, quote, dedicated to moving forward, end quote, with the program banning certain kinds of firearms from Canadian citizens. The authorities are orchestrating a buyback program of their own to confiscate firearms from their citizens. Their Minister of Public Safety, that sounds like a ridiculous title, BT dubs. I just imagine a guy wearing like a glow belt, like a PT belt, with like a couple of those orange cones you use for backing up airplanes with, and a hard hat, just like running through the snow in Canada. Guys, stop it. We have to be safe. And if I was, praise you, I'm not, but if I was Canadian, I would require that of anybody who is elected to that position. The Minister of Public Safety, Marco Mendocino, tweeted, quote, assault-style firearms belong on the battlefield and will soon begin buyback programs to get them out of Canada, end quote. I don't know if he's gay or not, but I'm assuming that's what he sounds like since that's his job. Assault-style firearms belong on the battlefield and will soon begin buyback programs to get them out of Canada. Assault-style firearms. All right, so you got a problem with a 22 caliber rifle with a bunch of extra powder behind it, but have you ever seen what a 270 deer rifle will do to a soft target? Thank you, Travis. That's exactly how anyone sounds talking about gun regulations. Travis, stop it. Stop it. I'm super serial right now. Right? Like, have you seen what a 270 will do? Oh, so with no military calibers. Okay, copy that. Let's refer back to 7mm Remington Magnum. That's not a military caliber. Would you like your lungs blown out at 700 meters? Because it'll do it. Like, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. It's part of why in Europe, for the longest time, you couldn't get 9mm pistols because 9mm was a military caliber. It was too powerful. This little guy right here, this was too powerful, right? But 7.65 by 21. Okay, yep, all right. So a neck down 9mm, that's good to go. It's stupid. It's bureaucracy. Have you seen the ATF being grilled over the pistol brace rule? The Gun Control Act, I believe is what they're calling it, which is de facto legislation by unelected officials. Thomas Massey. Did you see Thomas Massey grilling that dude from the ATF? It was really good, honestly. It was honestly really good. Talking about like military calibers and capability. It's ridiculous to think like Thomas Massey asked him, he's like, okay, so if I put this piece of plastic on the end of a buffer tube on an AR-15 pistol, that allows me to shoulder it. So you say ATF, that makes it an SBR. And even though you said in 2012 that this piece of plastic is not a stock, so it's exempt from any ATF oversight as far as a short-barreled rifle is concerned. Now you're saying that it is a stock, and if people don't comply within the next 30 days, by the way, you have 30 days to comply or be a felon. If people don't comply within the next 30 days, they could be subject to up to 10 years in jail based upon what you say is their intent, which is it's objective, what you think, not subjective, what the facts are. Mr. Massey asked him, he said, hey, what if I shoulder just a buffer tube? Do you have the authority to regulate the buffer tube on an AR-15? Because I can shoulder a buffer tube. And the guy was basically speechless. And then Massey goes, hey, you don't have New Living Bear translation. You don't have the authority to regulate any of this. Good point. And so if I shoulder a buffer tube, now is that, and this is now a short-barreled rifle, the whole thing is ridiculous. The whole thing is stupid. To which Mr. ATF guy replied, well, I'm not a firearms expert. I would have to get with the firearms experts within the ATF. Dude, you work for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And at one point, Massey says to him, so are you an alcohol expert? Well, no. Are you a tobacco expert? Well, no. Well, you're clearly not a firearms expert. Are you an explosives expert? Well, no. Okay, so how are you the director of the ATF and you're not an expert in any of these things? Bureaucracy. I'm a professional pencil pusher, sir. That's why I was elected. Shall we continue with the brief? Let's continue with the brief. So we talked about a dude from Canada. The Canadian government is working with the Canadian Sporting Arms and Ammunition Association to begin the buyback's first phase. Sporting arms. See, in Canada, they have a different set of rules than we do. Here in the United States of America, you can possess and you should possess a firearm for any reason, up to and including combating all enemies, foreign and domestic, shall not be infringed. Well, up there in Canada, well, if this is not a sporting rifle or a hunting rifle, you don't have legal grounds for which to own said rifle. I wonder, how long can bureaucrats continue to push this vehement bullshit before people just literally go, nah, nope, best of luck, nope. Another thing with that exchange between the director of the ATF and Massey says to him, so by your own estimates, there's 30 to 40 million pistol braces in existence. Can you tell me how many people have registered their pistol braces during this amnesty period? The guy's like, no, I don't have that data in front of me, but I can get back to you. Was it a lot? Was it millions of people? No. Nope, it wasn't. That's hopeful to me. See, and the thing is, like, if you look at, I'm reading a book. I'm always reading a book. One of the 5 books that I'm reading right now by Kilcullen, Insurgency. I think our federal government believes that we God-fearing, constitutional rights type people are an insurgency, and they are doing what they can to fight us as an insurgency. And when I say fight us, I don't mean like they're showing up with the MRAPs and the plate carriers just this hot moment, but ideologically they're fighting us as an insurgency, which is interesting because, and we talk about a lot, like the difference between a democracy and a representative republic. The United States is supposed to be a representative republic, not a democracy. But a democracy ultimately ends up, if you take a democracy far enough down the road, always ends up as a dictatorship with one strong man running the democracy. I think that's ultimately what they want here in this country. And the people who understand, nope, it's a representative republic, and I have rights that are given to me by God that are constitutionally protected, not given to me by man that wrote the Constitution, right? All the Constitution does is codify pre-existing rights that you already had because you're a human being. It doesn't grant rights. It simply stipulates what those rights are, right? So those of us who realize that the government sees as an insurgency, they see us as a threat to their authority. And so they're performing strategies in order to be able to undermine people like us and co-opt the belief system of those who might support people like us and here's the point, to single us out as individuals. Because as individuals or as small cells, we're super duper easy to take out by the beast, the big federal government. But as a group of people, a group of believers, if you will, much harder to take out a large group of people, especially when that large group of people is coordinated and can provide mutual aid, right? Cover and move. So I think that's one of the reasons, as we get further and further down this path, as we can read the writing on the wall, that we have to be far more coordinated and far more in lockstep than we are. It's super simple to focus on the 2% of things that we don't agree on, when really we should be focusing on the 98% of things that we do agree on, because they could take me out fairly easily. They could take you out fairly easily. But all of us? No, dude, that's a challenge right there. That's a challenge right there. And as much as I've harped on the modern militia movement in the past, look at things like the Bundy Ranch. Now, logistically, that operation from a militia standpoint was a shit show. And you guys know I harp on logistics because logistics wins wars, right? That's part of why we have to be super coordinated. That's right, Ronald Robertson, well-regulated. But you put 100, 200, 300, 1,000, 3,000 people in an area, all of whom are saying no at the same time to those federal authorities, that changes the equation rather than a man or a man and his family. Ruby Ridge, anybody? Waco, anybody? You put a group of people together who are all standing in lockstep, focused on the 98% of ideological alignment rather than the 2% of misalignment. Say, nah, man, we're not, love you, bro, but we're not going to tolerate that bullshit. And you don't have the right to perpetuate that bullshit. Sorry, go home. And then we'll go home. That changes the calculus significantly. And to be clear, I'm not talking about fomenting violence here. I'm simply talking about simply not tolerating the bullshit anymore. Exercise your no muscle. Carrie Stennett puts the idea of the lone wolf concept to bed, doesn't it? Sure does, bro. Just another nail in the coffin for the lone wolf concept. A group of shepherds, not sheep. Amen, elevator man. I talk about that all the time here. I don't want 187,000 followers. I want 187,000 leaders. I want you all to lead in your home, in your community, in your faith groups. I want you all to lead. Take responsibility for yourself and everybody around you. But I digress. Yeah, we're stuck on this Canadian gun buyback program. Let's try again. The Canadian government is working with the Canadian Sporting Arms and Ammunition Association to begin the buyback's first phase, even though the organization has stated that it is vehemently opposed to the ban. Then why are you working with them? If you're vehemently opposed to the ban, don't work with them, you cowards. Guns America Digest wrote, quote, conservatives have consistently argued that strengthening law enforcement is a more effective solution for reducing crime in the country, end quote. And I agree, if we're talking about reducing crime, yeah, strengthen law enforcement, more funding, better training, for sure. But also, I'll say it again, raise your children up in the way that they should go so they do not depart from it when they are older. Your children are not property of the state. They're property of you. They're not the government's responsibility. They're not the school's responsibility. They're not the after-school program's responsibility. They're not the school lunch program's responsibility. They're your responsibility, and the government is not your daddy or your husband. You should be as you should have the least to do with the government as possible, and they should have the least to do with you as possible. See, it's hard to scream freedom, Braveheart style, when you're on the dole. And I think that's a large part of why we've seen the expansion of so many government programs, is to co-opt the minds, to create dependency on the federal government for as many people as possible. Because how do you revolt against the person who's feeding you? Right? Then you couple that with bread and circuses. Yeah, most people are content to be slaves of the system. And the ones that are not content to be slaves of the system, a lot of them are still dependent on the government. I see it all the time. Trigger warning. People will say shit like, well, I'm on Social Security. I can't do anything about it. First of all, yes, you can. Change your mindset. Second of all, I'm glad you're on Social Security. Some of us, like me, have been paying into it our entire lives and will never never get a check from Social Security. So just because I got the demographic short straw, it's okay for you to be on Social Security, you to get that paycheck, and for me to pay into it and never get it. And then you, because you're on Social Security, you can't do anything because you've been bought and paid for by the federal government rather than figuring out a workaround. And I say that with love in my heart because I know so many people are dependent, there's that word again, on that check to not die. But again, let's look at that. Grandma, my wife's grandma, is 83 years old. You know where she lives? 300 yards from my house. Guess who takes care of grandma? Now, grandma's very, very dependent, or very independent is the word I'm looking for here. She's awesome. She is the best garden in bear camp. She's 83, right? She makes the best biscuits, right? The best fried chicken. She's awesome. Grandma doesn't need a whole lot of help, but when she does need help, does she ring up the government or does she call her grandson and her granddaughter to come assist, or her great-grandchildren to come assist? That's how it's supposed to work. The goal is not to put grandma in a home so we never have to see her again and then bitch about the system. The goal is to replace the system because the system simply replaced the family unit in the first place. The government is not your daddy. They're not your husband. They're not your boss. It is not the government's job to distribute funds, however those funds may appear. Social Security checks, tax returns, school lunch programs, school curriculum funding. That's not their job. But we've ceded that authority to them and then bitch about the logistics of having to take it back from them rather than just doing what's right. Take personal responsibility. Again, I don't want 187,000 followers. I want 187,000 leaders. I am my brother's keeper. If one of my brothers gets into a jam, do I want them going to the bank to take a loan? Or do we need to circle up as a community and go, all right, what are we going to do about this? How can we help? Right? So you want to shirk the system, opt out. See, if the system collapses and you're not in it, you don't collapse with it. Sorry, all the rabbit holes this morning. Canada and the US have signed 4 new updated agreements that will lead to more joint investigations into the smuggling and trafficking of firearms. Most notably, data will be shared more freely between the two entities. The agreements are also intended to help deal with the opioid crisis and migration issues in general. Sounds like a carte blanche blanket statement. Yeah, we're going to share data because of guns and because of drugs and because of people and stuff. Okay, just all things. Tracking. Roger that. Way to go, Canada. Well, the government shouldn't have that right. I agree. What you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Instead of sit around, drink coffee on Monday morning and bitch at the iPhone. What are you going to do about it? Don't play. It's like me going, football's stupid. I hate football. Hey, has anybody seen my shoulder pads? I'm missing a knee pad. You got some extra tape? I need that grease to go under my eyes. All right, well, this is stupid. All right, I'm going to get on the field. All right, what play are we running? Oh, we're on defense? All right, I guess I'll be the nose guard then. Okay, sounds good. I hate football. Football's stupid. Wow, I just got my ass kicked by that offensive lineman. I hate football. This is stupid. I don't even want to play this game anymore. Okay, everybody get back on the line. Don't put the pads on. Don't walk into the stadium. Don't even sit in the chairs and watch everybody else play. Don't participate. Yeah, but they got corn dogs in there and nachos. I know, bread and circuses. Don't play. Don't play the game. Don't pay the parking fee. Don't pay the admission fee. Don't buy the nachos. Don't drink the cheap, make you gay beer. None of that. Don't play. Go over here, play your own game. Speaking of migration issues, the U.S. is dealing with a deluge of illegal immigration along its southern border as the expiration of Title 42 nears. And officials have warned that a record surge is coming. It's estimated that daily encounters along the border have reached roughly 7,000 per day so far, and that number is only expected to rise. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Troy Miller expects a doubling in daily crosses, which DHS officials say is more than Border Patrol and shelters can even process. And yes, there are multiple thousands of military-age males from every demographic coming across the border, whether they're gangs or they're, Jedburgh teams. By the way, a lot of y'all have brought up, Bear, this attack on our infrastructure is orchestrated. Yeah, duh, homie. Yeah, it's super duper orchestrated. And I'm not just talking about Ohio train derailments. I'm talking about attacks on the grid, attacks on food processing, attacks in shipping ports, attacks on railways. I cannot say that word, railways. Attack on the railways. It's all orchestrated. Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you're into, pull off an atlas off the shelf, get the Encyclopedia Britannica out, Jedburgh teams. Oh, you mean the resistance teams that were left behind in World War II? Kind of. But just take it from me, they still exist. And they're absolutely being used against us right now in an orchestrated fashion. Why? Demoralization, control, centralization of power, asymmetric warfare. Oh, and who's in charge, air quote? 10% for the big guy. 10% from who? China. Interesting. Who are we fixing to go to war with? China. Roger Dodger said, Bud is not beer, so it's a non-issue. Right? Can we get some milk nitro stout up in here? Or at least a Guinness? Like, at least a Guinness with a good pour. Not like, one of those, like, wannabe titty bar, hot wings type places, bad Guinness pour. Like a good pour of Guinness. Good morning, Hans. Yeah, so, there's thousands, tens of thousands of military-age males coming across the border. Yep, 100%. Why? Do the math. Jedburgh teams. Google it. Take my word. Take my word. Yes, Patrick, I did have to bring up Guinness. My goodness, my Guinness. Did I mention, again, I grew up in upstate New York? There's a lot of Irish folk there. Yeah, Guinness is like quintessential. One must have a good Guinness with a good pour. In fact, in a real bar that serves real Guinness, they will not hand you the pint glass until it has rested behind the bar and has settled and has come with that nice creamy foamy head. And then once the beer is perfect, they will pull it from behind the bar and set it in front of you. That's how you know you're in a real bar that has real Guinness. Mother's milk. Yes, Patrick. I love it's 8:44 in the morning on Monday, and we're talking about beer, real beer. I love this. On April 24th, Chief Patrol Agent Gloria Chavez tweeted, yesterday, Brownsville Station, #USBP agents encountered over 1,600 migrants entering illegally into the USA in a 24-hour period. Huge kudos to all of our #RGV Border Patrol agents who are working feverishly through this migrant influx, ! End quote. The holding capacity in the Rio Grande Valley is only about 4,000. Oh, by the way, Rio Grande Valley and Brownsville, Texas, been there. I know exactly where that Border Patrol checkpoint is. Let's see. When I was down there building wind turbines, there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, if I'm remembering the math correctly, 40 to 100 encounters per day. And that was a long ass time ago, 2009-ish. So what is that? 14 years ago? And now they're just up to 7,000 a day. No biggie, just 7,000 a day. Guinness from a can just doesn't taste right, considering my first pint was at the Guinness factory in Dublin. I'm spoiled. Yeah, Alex, super duper spoiled. I don't like beer in a can anyway. I prefer beer in a bottle. And then not pour it from a bottle into a glass like a civilized man, you know? Grolsch, hell yeah. Grolsch swing tops. Used to order Grolsch literally by the case. There was a little place in White Lake, New York, barbecue joint that had fried alligator back when I didn't know what food was. And we would get like pounds of fried alligator, me and my buddies, and we would literally order Grolsch by the case. Just come out and set a flat of Grolsch swing tops on the table for us. Awesome. Love Grolsch. Yeah, we're super duper in the weeds. The holding capacity in the Rio Grande Valley is only about 4,000, and CNN reported that as of Friday afternoon, 7,500 migrants were already in custody there. Title 42 will end next week on May 11th, approximately 10 days away. So nothing to be concerned about there. A couple of things I did want to look at that are tertiary to what we're discussing this morning. This mouse does not want to cooperate. First Republic Bank seized by U.S. regulators. That's going to be great. The struggling lender will be acquired by J.P. Morgan, the Californian financial watchdogs said. The embattled First Republic Bank, this is coming to you via Russian propaganda RT, has been taken over by regulators and will be sold to J.P. Morgan Chase, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, DFPI, announced on Monday. Earlier this week, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, a principal federal regulator of U.S. financial institutions, asked a number of banks to submit bids for the struggling lender in an effort to secure a buyer before it entered receivership. A deadline for bids was set for Sunday. That would have been yesterday. J.P. Morgan, America's biggest bank, will, quote, assume all deposits, including all uninsured deposits, and substantially all assets, end quote, of First Republic, according to a statement issued by the California regulator. The DFPI, the California regulator, has appointed the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation as the receiver of the San Francisco-based bank, total assets of which amounted to nearly $229 billion as of April 13th, 2023, while its total deposits totaled some $103 billion. So they're only $116 billion in the hole. Deposits are federally insured by the FDIC, subject to the applicable limits, the statement read. Last week, a massive sell-off wiped out 75% of the bank's stock value following the disclosure that it had lost more than $100 billion of deposits in the first quarter of the current year. The San Francisco-based lender has struggled to stay afloat since the U.S. banking sector was hit by a major crisis. The seizure and pending sale of First Republic Bank made it the third U.S. lender to fail after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in March. Both were shut down by regulators following massive bank runs. In March, leading U.S. financial institutions agreed a $30 billion injection for the troubled regional lender. Shares of First Republic are down 97% this year. Nothing to see here, just another American bank failing. By the way, just so we're all on the same page, every single bank in America, possibly on the face of the globe, is subject to a bank run. It's because of a little thing we have now called fractional reserve banking that can only be predicated on fiat currency because we no longer back the US dollar with gold. We back the US dollar with oil and with military power. Mark Chase, good morning, bro. Thank you. So there's not a single bank in the United States of America that isn't subject possibly to a bank run because they don't have any money in there. There's no money in there. They take your money in and then they lend it out to other people at interest. Also known in the Bible as usury, which is not allowed. But they lend it out at interest. And so they create more money out of thin air by generating that interest, which devalues the US dollar. Because you can't, like, if I have a pie and I cut it into 8 pieces, Each one of those pieces is worth 1/8 of a pie. Well, I cut each one of those pieces in half, right? Same pie, same value of pie. But now I have 16 pieces. But each one of those pieces is worth half what it used to be worth, right? So every time you cut the pie into more pieces, you still have the same amount of pie. You haven't grown more pie. We don't have more pie. Just cutting it into more pieces because the dollar is just a representation of wealth, right? By fiat, mandated at this point because there's no gold to back it up. But every time I cut that pie into more pieces, the value of each individual piece becomes less and less. Something a third grader could understand, but somehow our elected officials and the people that run this country don't quite get that. Or do they, Baron? This is part of the controlled demolition. Probably both. It's probably both of those things. So, fiat currency, bank runs, yeah, 100%. 100%, dude. It's like, and then, yes, they're going to push for central bank digital currencies. It's going to happen. And then people will freak out. But what are we going to do about that? Get out of the system. Get out of the system. But what do we do about get out of the system? Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, but I should have a right as a... Do you realize the founders, many of the founders were vehemently opposed? That's the third time we've used that word this morning. Boys and girls, the word of the day today is vehemently. Vehemently opposed, and brought to you by the number 9. Many of our founders were vehemently opposed to a central bank. By the way, there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. It's literally just a group of private banks that Congress has ceded authority to because Congress constitutionally has the right to mint coin that has inherent value because it's made out of precious metal. Interesting. But since we got off the gold standard in the early 70s, we don't do that anymore. Nope, just have fiat currency, which now means literally already on the computer. And there are members from the Federal Reserve talking about this on camera. I think it was on 60 Minutes. Literally, they just punch up more money into the computer. Oh, your banks, you need $100 million? Beep, boop, beep, 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 beep. Here's $100 billion. There you go. They don't print money. They just a few keystrokes. There you go. Got it. Maurice said we're 100% getting debt free. Awesome. Awesome. Good job. So central bank digital currency. Oh no, they're just gonna force everybody to use their money and they can make more money at any time because it's a private ledger system, not a distributed ledger system like Bitcoin. What are we gonna do? They're already doing that. They're already doing that. They are already doing that. Question: do you have a debit card in your wallet? Congratulations, you're using digital currency. But I digress. Now, you may be aware, long brief's gonna long, bro. Yesterday, outside of the Luhansk region of southeastern Ukraine, there was a massive explosion. Huge, tremendous, believe it, the best explosion. It was beautiful. Ukrainian ammunition train destroyed, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense. A large consignment of weaponry was destroyed in a strike near Kramatorsk, according to the Defense Ministry. Russian forces have destroyed a Ukrainian train carrying up to 200 tons of ammunition, Moscow's defense ministry claimed on Sunday. The strike reportedly occurred in Russia's Donetsk People's Republic. Again, this is coming from RT. Donetsk and Luhansk are breakaway regions of Ukraine that are currently embattled with both sides of the Russia-Ukraine war, claiming that, nope, that's our territory. The strike reportedly occurred in Russia's Donetsk People's Republic near the city of Kramatorsk, which remains under Ukrainian control. Interesting. The Russian military has also been actively targeting Ukrainian artillery units, the ministry spokesperson Lieutenant General Igor Konashevenko announced during a media briefing, quote, over the past 24 hours, tactical and Army aviation, missile, and artillery units of the Russian armed forces hit 82 Ukrainian artillery units at their firing positions, manpower, and equipment in 115 areas. Okay, roger that. The attack on the train appears to be the largest military gain of the day, but earlier Russian forces also claimed a strike on a command post of Ukraine's 81st Airborne Brigade. 81st Airborne. Where have I heard that before? It's almost like the United States has had cool guys with Oakleys in Ukraine for a decade doing foreign internal defense that nobody talked about at all. It's almost like during a Democrat president's tenure in the White House approximately a decade ago that Zelensky was installed by the CIA, and like who would be better than like a guy who was literally an actor to act like a president as a puppet to foment a war against Russia, whom same political group in the United States of America has strong ties to, that would then also accuse the opposite political group and presidential candidate of being in collusion with during a presidential campaign roughly 8 years ago or so. Interesting. I mean, it's just I'm just spitballing here, conspiracy theories. You know, it's almost like that's what happened. And now all of a sudden, the Ukrainian army just happens to have an 81st Airborne as well. Huh. Let's see. The attack on the train appears to be the largest military gain of the day, but earlier Russian forces also claimed a strike on a command post of Ukraine's 81st Airborne near the village of Belagorod in Luhansk People's Republic. Over the past few days, both Russian and Ukrainian forces have been ramping up long-range strikes against each other. On Saturday, which clearly they do not believe is the day of rest, the Russian military claimed the destruction of a major Ukrainian command center responsible for operations of Kiev's southern troops. The bombing was carried out with sea-based cruise missiles, according to Moscow. Part of why Russia claims the Black Sea is theirs, because they need a sea to launch sea-based missiles from. And the article goes on from there. But there was a massive, sup, Norse agorist, there was a massive explosion in that region outside of Donetsk, Luhansk, southeastern Ukraine. Huge. If you can find pictures of it, and they're getting harder to find even since yesterday. Huge. Now, the interesting thing here, tactically, is that Russia had to have had the intel that there was a train with 200 tons of munitions on it at that location at that time. So that tells me, and we know this, but clearly they have operatives and counter operatives in play, right? To be able to develop that intel, because intel drives ops, right? Is it possible they just got lucky? Yeah, it's super possible they just got lucky. But it's more likely that they knew that that train was carrying that payload and it would be in that location at that time. Because everybody, when it comes time to talk about when we're going to fight Civil War II and World War III, I'm going to be a gunfighter. I'm an operator, bro. It's like, there's guerrillas, there's auxiliary, and there's underground. Do not underestimate the value of the auxiliary and the underground. The ability to exist and operate below the threshold of discovery and to be able to develop and transmit that intelligence, that's huge. That's huge. And that was my takeaway from that article. Russia had to know that stuff would be on that train at that place at that time in order to be able to direct fires, which is not an instantaneous thing, in order to be able to direct fires to that location at that time. That's a big deal. I'm also still Chicken Farmer Plus. Thank you for the 20 doll hairs. Good morning. That is an interesting emoji thing you got going on there. I'm also still of the opinion that it's not just plausible, not just possible, but plausible that Zelensky will give in. He will capitulate. He will negotiate a peace with Russia, possibly orchestrated by President Xi Jinping of China. Why? Well, 90 seconds on this. The first is the BRI, China's Belt and Road Initiative, falling apart, somewhere like $3 trillion in debt currently. So Xi's pet project of the Belt and Road Initiative, which was being used to basically spread Chinese air quote goodwill around the world, which was actually creating debt slavery to all these host nations. It's not working out. People can't pay back their loans to China, so China's nationalizing the infrastructure that's being built through the Belt and Road Initiative, but China doesn't even have the manpower or the money to continue the projects or to staff the projects around the world. This is kind of falling apart on Xi right now. So Xi needs to save face, and he's trying to paint himself as the great peacemaker because it ties into his cult of personality. It ties into this 400-year plan for China to rise on the global stage, right? To usurp the number one position currently held by the United States of America. And that may or may not come to pass. That's a different argument. So Xi wants to negotiate this peace between Ukraine and Russia. I think it's possible that the peace is agreed upon. Xi takes credit for it. Zelensky, and therefore Ukraine, comes back into the fold with the Russians. And we, the United States of America, make no mistake, we 100% have people inside of Ukraine. We are also 100%, and I know this because I have talked directly to the people who are there in Germany and Poland, U.S. Armed Forces members in Germany and in Poland. We are staging a whole bunch of not just equipment and ammunition, but people in Germany and Poland. So I think it's possible Zelensky flips, comes back into the fold with Russia, and now the argument becomes NATO literally has Russia on their doorstep, which was the whole point, the whole casus belli, the whole reasoning for this war in Ukraine in the first place was to keep Russia off of NATO's doorstep because we don't want Russia that close to us. Well, what's next door to Ukraine? Poland, right? Where we have a whole bunch of troops. And it could be possible, I'd say within the next 12 months, that Zelensky flips sides. We can't win this war. We have to negotiate a peace. Xi comes swooping in. They negotiate the peace. Putin gets what he wants. Zelensky gets what he wants. And we've transferred all of this money and material to Ukraine, just like Afghanistan, just like Iraq, just like Vietnam, just like Korea. And oh no, there are enemies now. What do we do? Well, we have to go in there. We have to finish this war, this NATO war, this U.S. war in Ukraine. And now we directly are involved. We're already involved, but now we're directly involved, boots on the ground in a hot war in Ukraine. Probably time that somewhere around the presidential election cycle. And then the argument will be made, will we even have an election because of this war? Maybe. Prairie Bell Buster. Oh, snap. It's almost like a pattern or something. Yeah, it's almost like a pattern. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it's possible. And I see more and more indicators pointing in that direction every day. Big stretch. All right. That's the brief for today. If you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, this is your polite cue to beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. For everybody else who would like to talk about how to support the show, that's what we're going to do now. Murder dog just launched himself off the porch. Somebody's fixing to get some. It is National Stop the Bleed Month. I don't know if you knew that, but it's National Stop the Bleed Month. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Patreon.com. Links to all of this in the description down below. It's $5 per month. It is the first of the month. It is the best time to spend your $5 per month. You get a whole month's worth of content for $5. Minimum of 20 exclusive posts per month there, including exclusive live streams where we just hang out on Thursday nights. Stuff that never sees the light of day here on YouTube. Also, by the way, if you're on Patreon, check your payment method, because a lot of y'all get unsubscribed at the beginning of each month because your payment method isn't up to date, like your debit card expired in the last month or whatever. So check that out. We talked about this morning. It was a great question that came in from our buddy Ron. Wanted to know about the availability of 5.56 going forward because of the U.S. Army adoption of the 6.8 millimeter cartridge. Had that conversation over on Patreon. I thought it was a very good video. And there's a lot of, as our brother Saw says, there's gold in the comments there on that one as well. So, patreon.com. Now, Refuge Medical.com. Again, it's National Stop the Bleed Month. I didn't make this up. The American College of Surgeons made this up. And it's National Stop the Bleed Month. And we're pretty passionate about people not bleeding to death and dying. You might know this. And we have all the stuff you need to not bleed to death and die. It's a super good feeling to not die. Ask me how I know. It's awesome. It's an even more awesome feeling to help somebody else not die. And so Refuge Medical has all the stuff you need to be equipped and empowered to not die or to help people not die. You guys know the drill. We make everything here in the United States of America. We guarantee it forever. We've saved 73 lives to date in under 4 years using our equipment that we know about. This is the Bear Fat 3.0. There are many like it, but this is one of mine. This is in red with reflective. It looks like a fire truck. Super cool. But they come in all the cool guy colors as well. Multicam and OD green and black and gray and all the cool guy colors. This one's in red. Got a CAT Gen 7, legitimate, real Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet here on the outside. Got shears on the outside. The way this works is, you got your Molly PALS webbing on the back for durability and portability. And then you grab the lid here. You pull. You grab the red handle, and you pull the insert, the inner out of the outer. So now I'm holding in my hand a purpose-built trauma kit. And watch this. You can open it with one hand. I grab this little tab right here. I pop it like that. And note, all of the shit didn't come flying out of it. Yeah, that's intentional. We've had 3 lives saved to date where the person who used this kit to save their life was missing one of their hands. So it might seem like, oh, that's just a cute parlor trick. Nope, it actually matters. If you can't get your kit out and open with one hand, you could die. So this has all the things in it. CAT tourniquet, tape, Sharpie, gloves. Because if it's wet and not yours, don't touch it, right? By the way, always, all of our kits and components, HSA and FSA eligible, and made in the Estados Unidos, United States of America. Every stitch, every thread, every grommet made here, guaranteed forever. 6-inch emergency pressure bandage. That's like, imagine that the Israeli bandage got an upgrade after 40 years. That's what this is. In the back here, see there's a pocket right here. Look at all this cool stuff. Shears. 2 5x9 gauze pads, because if I need big gauze, I need it now. Nasal pharyngeal airway, nose noodle, goes just like that to maintain a patent airway. Not 1, but 2 chest seals, because you got a front and a back and an in and an out, right? And you have 2 lungs in your body. And a burn tech dressing. But wait, there's more. Down here, we have our trauma pack and our quick clot hemostatically impregnated gauze for wound packing. And then this, our trauma pack. And this has gauze for wound packing, a Mylar blanket in case your burrito gets cold, a triangle bandage so you can make an awesome do-rag and look like Rambo, Curlex rolled gauze for boo-boos and stuff, 2x2s, 4x4s, 5x9 gauze pads in case you fall off your moped, an eye shield if you get a piece of rebar stuck through your eyeball, and an iPad, but not the kind that your toddler's playing on right now, and some flat duct tape that's in here somewhere. Ah, there it is. Right there. You can see the corner of it right there. And it's cool coyote tan flat duct tape because duct tape sticks to everything, including blood, sweat, and tears. You can also use it to make more improvised chest seals with anything made out of plastic, including this bag, if you know how to do that, which means you've come to Responder 2 and Responder 3 at refugetraining.com. Now, that's the bare fact. I know, the made in America. I know, terrible. Guaranteed forever. I know, horrendous. And only 73 lives saved to date. What we were really going for was a cheap Chinese overseas produced garbage kit that hasn't actually saved anybody's lives. And we accidentally stumbled into the best damn first aid kit on the planet. So if you're willing to deal with the best damn first aid kit on the planet, then you could go to refugemedical.com and use promo code BearNation for free shipping. I'm sorry to do that to you. I apologize. But we really wanted to produce some garbage. We tried really hard to produce some garbage and instead just made a kit that just saves people's lives like constantly. So I resolved to be more scumbaggy next time, right? Does it have a shiwi? Oh yeah. For an extra $139, you can add a shiwi to any kit. No, that's bullshit. We don't have shiwis in store. Let's see. What else? We also just announced yesterday the desk kit. It is a kit that has 3 tourniquets in it. It's $120. Has 3 different types of tourniquets in it and chest seals and wound packing gauze and all that cool stuff. Specifically designed for schools and workplace environments. It'll fit. Thank you, Erica Becker. Appreciate you. It'll fit in a file folder in a file cabinet. Forrest, our director of sales, came up with that one. And I love it because you have a purpose-built trauma medicine kit in your filing cabinet or in your desk, or it also will fit in a backpack. It'll fit in the door pocket of your pickup truck. It'll fit a lot of places. It fits in a file folder in your filing cabinet, in your desk at work or at school. And the cool thing about that is nobody has to know it's there until you need it. Very clandestine. And it's unfortunate, period, that we need first aid kits in schools, trauma kits in schools. But it's even more unfortunate that a lot of schools are hesitant to buy them because they don't want the stigma of a bleeding control kit hanging on the wall in the school, because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that they might need it. So what this does is you can have one in the desk of every teacher in the school. They're there. Nobody knows they're there. If you need them, they exist, but you don't have to think about them every day. That's not really how I operate. I don't think about the school catching on fire, and yet we have fire extinguishers everywhere, right? Just in case. But it does give you that option. So the desk kit, $120, also at refugemedical.com. Refuge training. Don't be an ass. Come to class. Oklahoma dates are up. Certified CPR and AED. So if you want to get certified in CPR and AED, that class is up in the store for Eastern Oklahoma. There, Fort Smith, Arkansas is right there. There's an airport in Fort Smith. Did you know that? Yep, you can fly into Fort Smith. Check that out. What else? Stop the Bleed class. This is a 2-hour class, low-cost class. Come to class. You're going to learn tourniquets, pressure bandages, and wound packing. Responder 1, which is a 4-hour classroom class, which is reps and sets with your tourniquets, your wound packing, your gauze, chest seals, nasopharyngeal airway, tension pneumothorax, the entirety of the March algorithm, massive bleeding airway, respiratory circulation, head injury, hypothermia. Responder 2, which is CPR and AED, and an introduction to scenario-based training where you will work in MVA, a motor vehicle accident, and put your tourniquets on and move about the battle space with them. And then Responder 3, which is like, imagine a Spartan race plus a Tough Mudder plus force on force plus tactical medicine plus individual and team scenarios plus professional and personal development, all jammed into 10 hours of getting smoked in the field, doing self-aid and buddy aid all day. It's phenomenal. It's literally life-changing. One of the constant comments we get back in our AARs, after action reports, on Responder 3 is how much it changed people's lives. It's incredible. There's nothing else like it on the market. And that's not me saying that. That is only 6 Green Berets have now told me this is the best civilian medicine class I've ever seen. 2 thumbs up. Classes are in store, refugetraining.com. There's also dates in Tell City, Indiana, and just a couple of slots left in Boise, Idaho. So check it out. Lastly, grindstoneministries.com. You guys know what we do, disaster relief, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. And when we're not busy doing that, we rescue and rehabilitate juvenile human trafficking survivors. I can't give you the details, but I can tell you that we just successfully completed a 44-hour-long op. Praise the Father. Praise the Father. And so if you think it's an abomination that there are assholes out there who are serially raping children and you would like to do something about it, not raise awareness, not talk about it on Instagram, do something about it, I'm here to tell you we do something about it. We have 24 children in our care right now, 24 kids that we've rescued from being serially raped, ages 1 to 19. Think about that, 1 year old. When I think about that, that makes me want to do murder with these hands right here. 1 and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds. The average lifespan of somebody who's being trafficked is 7 years. That means if you begin to be trafficked at 6 years old, you will be statistically dead by 13. And there's lots of people who talk about doing something. There's very few people that do something about it. So if you'd like to partner with us to do something about it, please visit grindstoneministries.com, sign up for the newsletter, hit the donate button. And if you would, I would greatly appreciate it if you could donate monthly. That helps us with our budgeting. Budgeting is important because I got to take care of the kiddos we already got. And I also need a war chest to go get more of them. And that all comes back to budget. That being said, it's been touch and go on many occasions, but we've always gotten what we needed from the Father because he is badass. So thank you to every one of you who supports Grindstone Ministries and Caleb House. You can also buy your Caleb House swag, your t-shirts, your long sleeves, your hoodies. Our brother Saw's Facts Not Feeling shirt and our brother Rex's shirt, all of which come from Sanctified Supply Co., our brothers and sisters at Sanctified Supply Co., and a portion of those proceeds go to help us build Caleb House. Additionally, I'm hammering out the details for Whiskey with Bear in Texas. It's going to be expensive. It's a fundraiser. I'm just letting you know right now. It's a fundraiser. It's going to be expensive. But if you want to hang out, sip a whiskey, smoke a cigar, and eat some ribeyes with Bear, rooftop in Dallas, Texas, we're renting out the whole facility, by the way, the whole bar, restaurant, whatever it is. Shalom, Brother Saw. I'll have dates for that coming, which I will, of course, post on Patreon first because I post everything on Patreon first. And then the Refuge Ruckus is coming up. We're going to ruck 3, 6, 9, or 12 miles to raise funds to build Caleb House and to do more operations to recover more kids from sick pedophiles who need to get thrown in wood chippers. Our goal is to raise $1 million with the Ruckus. It's also worth pointing out the Refuge Ruckus, August 18th through 20th. Save the date, August 18th through 20th, Fort Smith, Arkansas, will be, to our knowledge, the first national gathering of people standing up to do something against pedophilia. Think about that. My brother Bob hit me with that the other day. I don't think about things on that level. I'm not in this for the publicity. But I can't think of another event that has been organized specifically to raise funds and specifically to thumb our nose at this minor attracted person pedophilia bullshit, stand up and go, no. 100% no. That shit will not be tolerated. Not even a little bit. So, we'd love it if you join us for the Ruckus. If you can't join us, ruck at home. If you can't ruck at home, or walk at home, or push your stroller at home, or roll your wheelchair at home, help us raise awareness, please. And I'll have more information on the dates. We'll have a website, a landing page put up soon. I'll share all of that with y'all. So it's Monday. It is the day for getting after it. I love y'all. I really do. I love and appreciate every one of you. Y'all have a blessed day. I'll see you soon. Shalom.